How can I, a Catholic apologist, say that Protestantism is winning? Does that mean I'm a traitor? No. It means I'm not here to tell my largely Catholic audience what they want to hear. I'm here to tell them the truth.
Basically, there were news reports, and these news reports were pointing out, this is in the mainstream media. I mean, my mom this morning texted me about it and said, "Hey, I saw on Fox News that they were the Sips with Sarah guy. He was on Fox News this morning." My mom was like, "Hey, do you know this guy?" And she was like, "Oh," and then she sent me this news article last week too about growth in converts in the Catholic Church. So this is something even that secular media within America is picking up on, is that Catholicism and being a Catholic convert is something which is much more popular in younger circles. Young people are in droves converting to Catholicism. And this isn't, contrary to popular belief, this isn't just like an internet thing. This is something where you can look at the diocese, look at their various different records of converts, and you can see that the amount of converts this year is by leaps and bounds greater than last year, which is greater than last year. There's a rapidly increasing trend of converts year by year to the Catholic Church, and the specific demographics that are being well represented are young people. So something that Trent Horn and some others wanted to point out is, hey, actually, this isn't good, because we also see through various different studies, we can critique the methodology, but I don't even want to get there. We see through various different studies that actually what happens when you compare the individuals leaving the church and the individuals coming in the church is that Catholicism disproportionately has a large number of people leaving the church. And a few comments on that. What I wanted to first bring up is I wanted to bring up the fact that, and I made a little bit of a thread on this on Twitter, but I want to bring up the fact that really the numbers can often lie. You have to be careful with numbers. Numbers can be important. Numbers can tell us a lot of things, but you have to be very discerning how you're using numbers, right? Because when it comes to Catholic action, that is, for those who don't know, Catholic action is basically taking doctrine and then acting in the world in order to achieve the end of divine revelation. What it preaches to us is the purpose of various different things. So Catholic action is all encompassing in various different spheres of life, everything from politics to culture to media, whatever. So Catholic action is not really determined, its effectiveness is not determined by a pure numbers game, right? So if you want to look at how optimistic, which is the point that Trent was making, how optimistic versus pessimistic you want to be about the future, you don't look at the numbers. That may sound weird, because the way in which we often think about data is like, if you have an upwards trending line, then that necessarily means things are good, and in the future it's going to go up. If you have a downward trending line, then these things are going to be bad. But it's completely wrong to think about cultural and political movements, religious movements, in the same way in which you would think about the growth of some sort of, the growth of a debate club year by year or something like that. Because when it comes to Catholic action and when it comes to political action in general, and this is something you guys need to learn about if you're going to be interested in any sort of Catholic action, it's really not about enrollment numbers. Throughout the history of political action, we see that enrollment numbers really aren't too determinative about the future of a certain movement. Rather, you need to have basically, you need to have people who have a degree of devotion to the movement. You need to have people who are willing to put in work, right? It's better to have 1,000 people who are willing to dedicate all of their free time to furthering the movement than it is to have 1,000,000 people signed up in your political party roll call list, right? You need to have people who are actually dedicated to going and doing things. So if we want to look at sort of whether we need to be optimistic or whether we need to be pessimistic about the future of the Catholic Church, about the future of the Catholic Church in America. Obviously, we're always optimistic about the future of the Catholic Church, but purely in terms of of our proximate ends, purely in terms of near future sort of growth metric, things like that. We need to look at whether we have people who are coming into the church who have that spirit of action. Whether we have a bunch of people who are coming in who are willing to spread the ends of the Catholic faith in their various different environments, in their various different communities, in art and culture, in various different forms of media, obviously in religious content, things like this. Who is winning the propaganda game, I guess is the best way of putting it. Who is winning the game of the various different outlets of action? And really, when we put it in terms of this, I think it's very clear. I think when we put it in terms of this, you don't really have a lot of propagandists for Presbyterianism. I mean, who do you have? Redeem Zoomer. Redeem Zoomer is your propaganda. I love Redeem Zoomer. I'm supposed to actually next week we're doing a stream together. Redeem Zoomer is your propagandist for Presbyterianism, and I think actually Redeem Zoomer would generally agree with the point that I'm making here. Who are your people who are engaging in action for the movement? And I think Catholicism is very unique insofar as it inspires action like no other religion does. I mean, we have political action like no other religion does. We have certain action when it comes to the arts and cultural activities that no other religion does in academia, in many different spheres of life, in media, even in things like jurisprudence and law. I mean, Catholics are pretty famous for being quite apt at jurisprudence. We can look at all of these different spheres in life, and there's a very concerted effort of Catholic action, which is pushing the ends of the Catholic Church. So really, that alone ought to give a very strong impetus for optimism, right? And the second point that I want to make is that these numbers are very, these numbers lie insofar as the type of methodology that's often engaged in. And I'll give an analogy. So let's say you are in a war and you have 1,000 troops, in your army, and you have 800 troops leave and then 100 troops join, and now you only have 300 people. Is that somehow going to be beneficial for carrying out the end of what you're supposed to do, that is combat, or is it somehow going to not be beneficial? Now, it's actually a very it's actually an impossible question to answer when you put it in those terms, because who are the 800 people leaving? I mean, if the 800 people leaving are basically like the dancing Israeli TikTok girls, you ever see the memes with the like Israeli TikTok girls in the military? Yeah, if you have those and you have 800 of those leaving your army, you probably improve the army by having those leave, right? But if you have, 800 of your best troops leaving, obviously it's going to be pretty harsh. It's going to be pretty problematic. And it's also a question of who are the 100 joining. Do you have the 100 of the best of the best, like American special forces, whatever, joining your army? Or are you having like 100, random, I don't know, like cartel foot soldiers, joining your army? Who are the ones who are joining? That's the question. So when we ask ourselves, okay, well, 800 are leaving the Catholic Church for every 100 are joining. Obviously, it is a great tragedy when any soul departs from external communion with the Roman Pontiff. But we really have to ask ourselves in terms of the effectiveness of the Church towards its end. The 800 that are leaving, are these 800 people who are well informed of Catholicism? Are these 800 people people who are very studious? Are these 800 people who were very dedicated and were donating money and time and engaging in Catholic action in the public sphere? Are these 800 are leaving? Were those individuals doing those sort of things? And I think obviously for the vast majority of the people that go from, I'm self-identified Catholic to, I'm not a Catholic anymore. These people don't even believe, in like the inerrancy of Scripture. Like these people don't even believe that abortion is wrong. You have a lot of people like this, like these people, pronouns and bio type Catholics that we see on Twitter all the time. So really, the 800 number doesn't tell us that much. If you have those types of individuals are going to be the ones who are leaving the church. And on the other end, the 100 that are joining, are these 100 generally more serious? Are these 100 generally more orthodox? Are these 100 loyal to the church? Are they loyal to the bishops? Are they loyal to His Holiness? Do you have individuals who are very happy to engage in Catholic action, who are very generous with their time, very generous with their money? Those are the questions that you need to ask yourself. And they are, at least comparatively, relatively, uh, indisputably, yes. The answer is yes for these individuals compared to those that are generally leaving. So I think that the general point that Trent was making falls flat. It falls very flat. And for myself, empirically, because Trent said, "Oh, this is an online thing. This is an online thing." Now, I've been now a Catholic for a few years, right? I've been through a few Holy Weeks. I've been through going to confessional Maundy Thursday, doing the Stations of the Cross on Good Friday, going to the Masses in the evenings of Maundy Thursday and Good Friday, going to the Easter Vigil. I always, for the Triduum, I'm always very careful to do all the stuff, go to all the events. I personally, that's how I very much like to celebrate the Triduum. And this year was like none other. It was absolutely like none other. Maundy Thursday, I go, completely middle of the day. They had, I think, at a parish close to mine, 5 or 6 hours a day of confession during the Triduum. So I went to Maundy Thursday. I thought, most people they're going to be working. They're not going to be going to the Maundy Thursday confession times. I went at a time in the middle of the day-ish, so people wouldn't be going on their lunches or anything like that. And it was shocking. I mean, it took me 2 hours to get into the confessional. There were, I think, 2 or 3 priests. There was a lot of people there for just a random time in the confessional for Maundy Thursday. And then my wife, and then the Maundy Thursday Mass, it was like packed at a very like low Novus Ordo near my house, just absolutely packed, like nothing I've seen before. And then on Good Friday, my wife, she was going to go to confessional Good Friday. Well, she did go to confessional Good Friday. And I told her, go early, go very early. It's Good Friday, go early. A lot of people have half days. They're going to be going more in the afternoon. Just go like 30 minutes before the confessional even opens up. And it took her, I think, like 2.5, 3 hours, even though she showed up a half an hour before it started. It was pretty crazy. I mean, they had 3 priests there as well. She said there was just a massive amount of people. And then, later in the day on Good Friday, Stations of the Cross at a very, low Novus Ordo where, not exactly the most, alive, spiritually alive parish for the traditional practices. You have the Stations of the Cross on Good Friday. My wife went to that, and she said there was like well over 100 people who went there, which, usually something like that would not have that many people. Easter Vigil. I mean, they just a huge amount of people at a very small local parish that I was at. Well, not very small, I guess, more moderately sized, but just a huge amount of people being confirmed. Very young people. You listen to the confirmation saints that they choose. It's very clear that they're more traditionally minded, and just by the type of confirmation saint that they're choosing. So Trent Horn can say all he wants that, this is an online phenomenon. This is not real life. This is not, these aren't people around you, blah, 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 blah. He can say this all he wants, but I see these things with my eyes. We go to parishes, we go during the Triduum, and we see all these events happening, and we see just a marked difference between last year and even the year before, things that we never would have seen at these types of parishes, even parishes that you wouldn't expect. So I'm not going to somehow disbelieve my eyes. I mean, some of these events happened at quite different parishes of quite different bent. This wasn't just a one parish sort of experience. And I've talked with various people since the Triduum started, and there are a lot of people who've had similar experiences. So yeah, I highly, highly, highly for many different reasons, but mostly for the ones that I stated, disagree with what Trent Horn's general argument was. But I can agree with the practical conclusion that he drew. I can agree that no matter what, we should always, with the knowledge that oftentimes the knowledge that we hold these treasures in clay vessels. We hold these treasures in vessels which can be easily broken. Understanding the fragility of us and of our adherence to God, we all have to always carefully and consistently and stringently engage in Catholic action. We all have to put the work in and not remain stagnant. We got to push further and push harder. So I can agree with the practical conclusion of what Trent said, but all of the premises up to there, I just think he was completely wrong. I think he was completely off with it.